So, if you were to Google Elon or go on YouTube, most of the interviews are about business, but I thought since this is about dreams and life skills, we focus more on the various turning points in Elon's life from where he grew up in South Africa to where he is now, because everyone has a journey. So I thought it would be cool that when you look at your life, there's going to be certain parts where you're like, if you went this way, you end up here, but if you go this way, you end up there. And in Elon's case, he went from literally Victoria, South Africa, to Kingston, Ontario, Canada, to Pennsylvania, which is the East Coast, to Stanford, which is in Northern California, down here. And it's a total of, if you look up, can you make it smaller? So if you look on the map, Elon, and correct me if this is correct, so Victoria, South Africa is here, northeast part of South Africa. Then B is where he's in Canada, C was where he went to school, and then D, another school, and then finally E is where he is now. But if you add up all the amount of times that he came somewhere, it was 11,786 miles. And so when you look at your life, wherever you are, think about the fact that maybe you're where you started your first 5 or 10 or 15 years. Maybe you're where you are with your high school. But the point is, Elon had a journey, got to where he was. So I was going to talk to you specifically about 3 things. How important the place was that you grew up, the people that you were around, that you surrounded yourself with, and lastly, like, is the purpose that you have the reason why you found and saw the people that you surrounded yourself with? So the first question I want to ask you is just like South Africa.
Right.
Do you know that Nelson Mandela is from South Africa? So he's like one of the most amazing leaders in the world. Charlize Theron is from South Africa. Dr. Patterson Chong, who's like a revolutionary doctor. Why do you think South Africa, and you're obviously from South Africa, so what do you think about the culture and the people there make it a place where you have all these visionaries that grew up there?
I think there's great visionaries in from almost any country. You know, I mean, certainly there's some great people like right now that came from South Africa. I don't know. I'm not sure. You know, there's certainly an eclectic mix of people in South Africa. Sort of a wide range of cultures, and I think some of those interactions are pretty helpful to come up with new ideas. I think that the United States also has a great mixture of cultures, and there's a lot of incredible people that they come from here. In fact, more amazing people come from the United States than probably anywhere else in the world. And the reason I wanted to come here was because like the forefront of technology is in the U.S. I like technology, so don't work with it.
And what about the people you surround yourself with, like your mom, your brother, your sister, your cousins? I mean, what kind of an impact did they give to you? Because you might have a dream, but you still need the people around you to either support or discourage you from your dreams. So did you have a very supportive family?
I don't think they were unsupportive, but I can't say they were particularly supportive. My father was quite unhelpful. Yeah, I got beaten up a lot at school. So.
Really?
Yeah, it sucks.
For what?
For no good reason, I think. But, I read a lot of books, and I was for a long time, up until 10th grade, I was pretty much the smallest kid in my class. And then I kind of sort of grew after that. But and I mean, I think part of it was like my own fault for being like a bit of a smartass sometimes. But yeah, being sort of a small, bookish smartass is a recipe for disaster. And South is a very violent place, and violence is like nothing.
So what would you suggest to our students though? Let's say they've been bullied, maybe their mom or dad aren't supportive, and like you, I was the shortest kid in my class till 10th grade.
Right.
I always got bullied. So
Yeah.
what would you suggest, like how did you deal with that when you were a kid?
Mostly I ran. Yeah, I think run or hide. Those are the two options, really. Yeah, hide in classrooms during recess.
Okay, so that's what you suggest to
I mean,
run high.
I'm not sure what the other options are.
Okay.
And actually, when I left South Africa, I left by myself when I was 17 against my parents' wishes and with almost no financial support. So when I was in Canada, I sort of supported myself through various odd jobs, and managed to get a student loan and go through college, but I paid for my own college. Well, I mean, got loans plus work. Eventually paid off the loans.
And why did you choose Canada? Why Queen's University? That where you went?
My mom was born in Canada, so my dad was my grandfather, I should say, was actually American from Minnesota, but my mom hadn't applied for U.S. citizenship before a certain age, so she didn't have that, but she was born in Canada, so I applied for her Canadian passport and mine at the same time, and then I'd have 3 weeks after getting the passport.
And then from Canada to UPenn to Stanford, like, what was the reasoning for that? Like, you just not go directly to Stanford or the West Coast? That's what you ended up wanting to go to.
So, in Canada, the colleges are less expensive. It's kind of like maybe a state school, like if you go to University of California or one of the Cal State universities, the tuition is much less than it is in other places. So, depending on my way through college, anyway, I could go to some place other than Canada, which is a better scholarship or something like that. So I didn't really think about U.S. universities, but after my second year at Queen's, I applied to UPenn and actually did get a scholarship. So ended up going there in the 3rd year, and then after graduating, decided I wanted to pursue grad studies, applied to Stanford, and got it.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the turning points. I've read that when you were 12, you saw your first computer code for a class for $500.
Right.
So again, you have an idea, as all the students have. Who did you reach out to? Did you reach out to your mom? Did you reach out to your cousin? Or like, how did you make that, oh, I have this product, to here's $500, Elon?
Well, I read a lot of computer magazines, and there was a computer magazine that you could sell software to, and then publish the software, and then send you a check. And I like playing video games, so I need more money to buy a better computer and more video games. So I wrote some software and sold it. And then I sold a company to another one.
When you were 12, did you have doubts? Because a lot of students might have those doubts where we have an idea, we think it's good, but again, from the idea to the completion, did you say, oh, I like this game, I'm going to try it out, so I'm just going to do it?
Well, I just really like computers, and programming was kind of fun. It seemed kind of amazing that you can make a computer do all these things. So I didn't think they would accept I didn't think they'd actually buy the software, but if you don't try, then you definitely have 0% chance. So I mailed it in, and then they bought it, and I don't think they knew I was 12 years old, actually.
Do they know you now?
I think, yeah. I guess after I sold the second program to them, I went and visited their offices.
And then you fast forward to your college. I watched their interviews, and you kind of tell people, I thought about what I want to do, and I thought about the internet, sustainable energy, and like space travel. And now people might believe you because you have 2 companies, or actually 4 companies that you created or started, and invested in a 5th one, right? Right. A lot of companies he's created and started. But back in college, did you share your dreams with your classmates? Because can you imagine if I were with you in college and you say, hey, I want to fly into outer space? Did you have a desire that you share that with your classmates? Or again, going back to from the idea to the completion, what are some steps you might have taken so that students can think about that?
Sure. Well, I mean, when I was in college, I just thought about the things that might most affect the future of the world. And there were actually 5 things, 3 of which I was confident would be positive, and 2 of which I thought could have a mixed outcome, or question, not uncertain outcome. The three that I thought would definitely be good were sort of space travel, particularly making like multiplanetary, sustainable energy, and the internet. And then there's writing genetics, writing genetics, and artificial intelligence, which are more of a thorny issue. So I didn't think at the time that I would be involved in all three, but those are just what I thought would most affect the future. At first I didn't. It's not as though I expected to start a company. I actually just applied for a job at Netscape, which was the only internet company in '95. And then that sent my resume, I didn't hear anything, and I tried to hang out in the lobby.
That's a big job did.
Yeah, but I was too shy to talk to anyone, so that didn't work. So then I just started writing some internet software, and then my brother came down and joined me, and we created a company. But we still had virtually no money, so we had $3,000, and so we could afford to rent this really crummy office, which was cheaper than an apartment. So we just slept on a couch in the office, and then showered at the YMCA.
So one more question, and I'm going to open it up to the students and some of the volunteers. So I was talking to Andy Bell, as the CEO of the shelter, right? And he talked about how the solutions that we want to find for any problem isn't just about resources, it's about relationships. So for you, the guy named Harry Rosen.
Yeah, right. You really know a lot of details.
I've read a lot.
Harold Rosen, yeah.
So Harold Rosen was one of the guys that was instrumental in helping Elon with Tesla and SpaceX. Is that accurate?
Not so much with SpaceX, but more with Tesla. In 2003, about a year after Tesla, SpaceX was started. So SpaceX was the reason he called me, but then he wasn't all that helpful with SpaceX, but he was certainly helpful in getting Tesla going. And he brought J.B. Straubel, who was ended up being one of the co-founders of Tesla, to the lunch, and they were trying to do like a hydrogen airplane or something, which it sounds cool, but I don't think it's very practical. But then they also mentioned electric cars, because Harold had done an electric car company called Rosen Motors that didn't ultimately succeed, but both JB and Harold were really interested in electric cars. And I mentioned that I was going to be doing my grad studies on ultracapacitors for use in electric cars, and then they said that I should get a test drive in a prototype for AC propulsion of it was an electric conversion of a kit gasoline sports car. And that really made it clear that you could create a long-range, fast electric car. And so we created Tesla as a result.
So my question is for the students: they have a dream, they have to find people like a Harold. How did you actually meet Harold? Was it like friend or friend, or how did that?
I'm not entirely certain. I think he heard about SpaceX, and they gave me a call and suggested having lunch.
Okay.
It's just how it works.
Does that happen a lot? Like people from out of the blue say, "Hey, Elon, I want to help you," or?
It does these days. It didn't happen in the beginning.
So what would you suggest for people that even aren't in a more established position as you, but how do you find those business contacts or people that can develop those relationships to help you?
Well, I think it's worth like going to if you go to places where such people are likely to be, and then just can try sort of cold calling people out of the blue. Then I got a couple of summer jobs that way. But I think just sort of go out and try to meet as many people as possible. It's a good way to go.
Thank you. So, any questions from the students or volunteers? I know majority.
Did you have any downfalls where you thought was bad but was good in the long run?
Well, there's certainly been some problems that we encountered along the way. All my companies at one point or another came close to failing, so it's very close. 2008 was probably the low point because we had our third rocket failure in a row, so we'd only had failures until that point. And I'd only planned to have enough money for 3 launches, so fortunately we were able to scrape together enough to do a 4th one. But if the 4th one had failed, then it would have been game over for SpaceX. And then also later that year, because of the financial meltdown, we weren't able to raise money, outside money for Tesla. So I committed all the money I had left, and then the existing investors agreed to match that amount. We only closed that financing round and got the money at 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve.
Wow.
That was the last hour of the last day that was possible. We got bankrupt right after Christmas.
So basically you did fundraising?
Well, creating any company, you've got to, to grow any company, you've got to convince people to give you money. And in order to convince people to give you money, they have to think that there's a good chance that the money will be worth more after they give it to you. But in terms of the amount of time spent raising money, it's a pretty small percentage of what I do. So less than, well under 5%, maybe 2% of the time.
Agnes?
Are you scared to go up to space?
Sorry?
Are you scared to go up to space?
I wouldn't say I'm scared to go up in space. There is certainly some risk to going to space, but I think it can be reduced to a very low likelihood. So I think it can be very safe. And ultimately, in order for humanity to become a spacefaring civilization and travel to other planets, it's really important to make space travel super safe.
Are you going to go to Mars?
I'd like to, yeah. Cool.
Are you getting animals up there first?
No, I think probably not. I mean, I think it's no, because I'm not sure who would take care of them.
Do you have any pets?
Yeah, Labrador and a border collie.
He has 5 kids too. Nice. You already asked 2 majorities. Anyone else have any questions? Bonnie?
Hi. You said that initially you were very shy and to approach people, and then you got to a point where you know where to go and who you need to talk to. How did you get from that point of being like an introvert and a shy person to, meeting all these important people and pushing your idea and, being at the right place at the right time? How did you make that transition?
I just forced myself to do it, even though it was mentally very painful.
So who was the first important person that you met with?
Most important person. Well, it depends on how important. I suppose probably the first really important person I met was this guy by the name of Peter Nicholson, who was this is when I was in Canada, and I was trying to get a summer job, and I read this article in the newspaper about this guy, and he seemed really smart, and so I just actually I couldn't get to him directly, but then I called the newspaper and asked to talk to the writer, and then I met with the writer, and then the writer connected me with Peter Nicholson. He was the head of strategy for the Bank of Nova Scotia, which is one of the largest banks in Canada. And he later became the chief economic advisor to the Prime Minister. So he's a really smart guy. And I had lunch with him, and then and then I said, well, if there's any chance of a summer internship, that would be great. And he actually ended up giving me a job working for him for that summer.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
To 2 more questions. Any? Yes.
How did you make the axle?
The Tesla car.
Yeah.
Which essentially used the body and chassis, remove the gasoline powertrain, and put in an electric powertrain. And then actually there were 2 elements to it. So there was that, and then the other part was that we would license much technology for AC propulsion for the powertrain. Now both of those premises turned out to be pretty stupid, because it actually ended up costing us way more to convert the a frame that was designed for a gasoline car to electric than if we just designed something from scratch. But we still had a lot of the downsides of the car that we used as a base platform, which was the lowest lease. And then in terms of licensing the technology for AC propulsion, it turned out that none of it was really producible. Like, it was really difficult to manufacture and required a lot of hard work. So we had to redesign all the powertrain technology. So yeah, but on the other hand, if we knew we had to do everything from scratch, then maybe we wouldn't have started the company. So even though it was a mistake, it might have been a good mistake.
So, one more question?
What's that?
So one more question, and then one more. Couple pictures.
Okay. Actually, we can go a little late.
Okay.
Oh, is that on time? Or?
It's like 3 minutes slow.
Oh, okay. Probably
2 more?
Yeah, sure.
And then we take a picture.
Sure.
What was your question?
Did you find any planets with life?
Sorry, any plans for flying?
No, did you find any plans with life?
Oh, plans for life? No. So far, nobody's found any direct signs of life. But the telescopes are indicating that there's a huge number of planets out there that are similar to Earth. So it seems likely that there's at least primitive life, like single-celled life, bacteria, that kind of thing. Then there's a much smaller number that would have sophisticated life, like plants or animals, and then a much tinier number that would have life that we can talk to. And that number might be 0 in our region of the galaxy. Hopefully it isn't. But we've not seen any direct sign of communications from nearby solar system or solar systems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and it's always like a debate. Like, it'd be cool to discover life, but not if that discovery is the approaching invasion fleet.
No, not first student.
Do you drive the car that you designed?
Yeah.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Very
every day.
compliant too. Almost ran me over. I didn't hear it.
Yeah, so it's important to always use your product and figure out what think every day about how it could be better.
Is there a question, Manisha?
Yeah. So how do you deal with fear? Fear of being wrong, or fear of failure, or fear of being ridiculed in the media? So how do you deal with that?
Well, I'd say I feel fear quite strongly. Sometimes I don't have fear, but I think if I think it's important enough, then I just override the fear. Just ignore it. But it does cause me a lot of stress and anger.
Justine?
So I have a question for our students. How can they best reduce their carbon footprint in their everyday lives? Because I don't know if you understand, but regular cars, they put pollution into the air, which we breathe into our lungs, and it makes us sick. And he's invented a car that is electric, so it doesn't need gasoline, and that's like the future of our planet, and that's huge. So how can our students be aware of their environment and decrease their carbon footprint on a regular basis?
Sure. Well, I guess that your carbon footprint is not huge, right? So, unless you're driving like a big car, a big gasoline car or something, but certainly vehicles are a huge source of carbon. Electricity is still a significant source of carbon. That's why we need to have sustainable electricity production as well as electric cars. So obviously, to the degree that you can minimize your use of electricity, that would reduce your carbon footprint. Yeah, I think that's probably the main thing. I suppose you can also be like a vegetarian, yeah.
She's vegan, actually.
Yeah.
Are you vegetarian?
I am not a vegetarian. I've tried being vegetarian, I've tried being vegan, but I couldn't do it.
Okay, so one last question, then I'm going to take a picture.
If the electric cars are the future, then when we be using too much electricity?
Well, so it's important to reduce the electricity in a way that doesn't put carbon in the atmosphere, and that's where solar power is really helpful. So Solar City, well, we haven't talked about Solar City very much, but that's one of my companies that uses solar panels to create electricity, so it doesn't produce any carbon.
Great. Let's thank Elon for coming. Everyone's going to surround Elon. We'll take one quick picture. Elon can sit down. Everyone surround Elon. One quick picture, and then he's on his way.
I want to be in the picture with Elon, man.
Yeah, are you going to take a picture?
I'll take it. We'll do it.
Everyone surround Elon, please. One quick picture.
All right, everybody look at this camera right here.
Everyone look at Steve's camera. Right there.
Make sure you can see the camera so your face is up.
Okay, good. You're going to do it. Okay, let me.
Sorry?
Exactly. Look that way.
Yeah, the count of three, we're going to say Tesla, okay? On the count of three, we're going to say Tesla. 1, 2, 3. Tesla! Next one, we're going to say SpaceX. Okay?
All right,
Count of three. 1, 2, 3. SpaceX! I'm going to give Solar City some love too, so count of three, Solar City, ready? 1, 2, 3. Solar City!
All right.
All right. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We're going to walk around down to his car, and then we're going to the second part with Andrea. So 5-minute break.
Getting nice to meet you.